"Daddy, that boy played with me yesterday," said the boy upon seeing the photo on the grave. Daniel Mitchell felt his chest tighten every time he needed to visit that place. 30 years had passed since he lost his twin brother, but the pain remained there, throbbing like a poorly healed wound. It was then that his son Ethan, just 6 years old, let go of his little hand and ran toward a specific grave. The boy stopped in front of the white marble headstone and pointed to the small framed photograph. "Daddy, that boy played with me yesterday at the school playground," said Ethan with the naturalness that only children possess. Daniel felt his blood run cold in his veins. That photo was of his brother Matthew, who had passed away at 8 years old in a tragic accident. How was it possible that Ethan recognized someone he had never seen in his life? "Ethan, that's not possible," murmured Daniel, approaching slowly. "That boy in the photo, he couldn't have played with you." "But Dad, I do know him. He has the same curly hair as me and plays with cars the same way. Even his name is similar to mine." Daniel's heart raced. Ethan was right about the curly hair. Matthew and he were identical twins in childhood, and Ethan had inherited exactly the same features. But that still didn't explain how his son could know someone who... "What's his name, son?" "Matt." He said his name is Matt. Daniel had to lean on the grave to keep from collapsing. Matthew had always been called Matt by the family. That was impossible, but Ethan didn't lie. He never lied. On the way back home, Daniel drove in silence while Ethan chatted about his new friend. Every detail the boys shared made less sense, and at the same time fit perfectly with the memories Daniel had of his brother. "He likes red cars just like mine, Dad. And he knows how to make that really loud engine noise." And he laughed when I told the duck joke. Daniel knew that joke well. It was the same one Matthew used to tell when they were little. When he got home, Daniel found his wife Jennifer preparing dinner. She was 6 months pregnant and radiated that special beauty of expectant mothers. When she saw her husband's pale face, she immediately stopped what she was doing. "Dan, what happened? You're white as a sheet." "Jen, I need to tell you something strange that happened today." Daniel recounted the entire episode at the cemetery, trying to make sense of the situation. Jennifer listened in silence, occasionally glancing at Ethan, who was playing carefree in the living room. "Maybe it's just a coincidence, honey," she said, but her voice carried an uncertainty she couldn't hide. "Children have a lot of imagination. Ethan doesn't usually make up things like that, Jen, and the details he gave, it's as if he really knew Matthew." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep a wink. He tossed and turned in bed, replaying every word Ethan had said. In the morning, he decided he needed to investigate that story more deeply. At Ethan's school, Daniel sought out the teacher, Mrs. Johnson, a 60-year-old lady who knew all the children in the area. "Mrs. Johnson, I'd like to know about Ethan's friends. He mentioned a boy named Matt." The teacher smiled and nodded. "Oh yes, Matt. Son of Rebecca, that young woman who lives in the Flower Garden Estates neighborhood. He's a lovely child, very similar to Ethan, in fact. People sometimes confuse them from a distance." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. "Do you know this Rebecca?" "Yes, I do. She sometimes comes to pick up her son here at school when the grandmother can't. A very nice young woman, works at Mrs. Wilson's sewing shop. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Daniel left school with his mind buzzing with questions. Flower Garden Estates was a neighborhood just 15 minutes from where they lived. How had he never crossed paths with this woman and her son before? He decided to take a walk through the neighborhood during lunch break. It didn't take long to find Mrs. Wilson's dressmaker shop. It was a small, cozy establishment with mannequins in the window displaying colorful dresses. He entered with his heart pounding. "Good afternoon, can I help you?" asked a silver-haired lady. "I'm looking for Rebecca. I'm the father of a classmate of her son." "Oh, Becky, she's back there finishing some adjustments." Daniel walked to the back of the shop and stopped. A young brunette woman of about 25 was bent over a sewing machine. When she looked up and smiled, Daniel almost lost his breath. Those green eyes were unmistakable. They were the same eyes as his family's, the same ones he saw in the mirror every day. "How can I help you?" asked Rebecca, with a sweet voice that also sounded familiar to him. Excuse me, my name is Daniel Mitchell. My son Ethan studies with your son Matt." Rebecca's smile vanished instantly. She turned pale and her hands began to tremble. "Mitchell?" she whispered. "Daniel Mitchell?" "Yes. Do you know me?" Rebecca stood up slowly as if seeing a ghost. "My God! I knew this day would come. I always knew." "What do you mean? I don't understand." "Mr. Daniel, I need to talk to you, but not here. Mrs. Wilson can't hear." They arranged to meet at the Central City Park after her work. Daniel spent the rest of the day restless, calling Jennifer every hour to share the news. "Dan, I'm getting worried. This is all very strange," Jennifer said over the phone. "I know, honey, but I need to understand what's happening." At the park, Daniel arrived a few minutes early. Rebecca appeared walking slowly, holding the hand of a boy with golden curls who looked practically identical to Ethan. When Daniel saw the child, his legs went weak. It was like looking at a picture of his own son, or at his childhood memories with Matthew. "Matt, this is Mr. Daniel, Ethan's father," Rebecca said in a trembling voice. The boy waved shyly but soon perked up. "You're Ethan's dad? He's my best friend at school." Daniel crouched down to the child's level. "Really? Ethan talks about you a lot too." "I like playing with him because we look alike. The teacher even said we look like brothers." Rebecca pulled Daniel aside while Matt went to play on the slide. "Mr. Daniel, I need to tell you something. I'm your cousin." "What do you mean, cousin?" "My mother was Mary Helen Mitchell, your father Richard's sister." Daniel felt the world spinning around him. Aunt Helen was his father's younger sister, who had moved to another city when he was still a child. After Matthew's accident, the family fell apart and they lost contact with almost all relatives. Aunt Helen, but she wasn't married. She didn't have children. She had me when she was very young, Mr. Daniel, the result of a relationship that didn't work out. Later, she married my stepfather, but I always knew about the Mitchell family. "And why did you never look for us?" Rebecca lowered her eyes, clearly uncomfortable. "Because my mother was forbidden." "Forbidden by whom?" "By your grandfather, Mr. Richard. After Matthew, after the accident, he said he didn't want anything to do with any relatives, that the Mitchell family had to be alone with their pain." Daniel felt anger growing in his chest. His father had never told him that version of the story. "My mother died 5 years ago, Mr. Daniel. On her hospital bed, she made me promise that one day I would look for you, but that I would wait for the right moment." And what would be the right moment? When the children found themselves alone. She said that children have a wisdom that adults lose. Daniel looked at Matt playing in the park. The resemblance to Ethan and his own childhood memories was striking. "Rebecca, may I ask a personal question? Who is Matt's father?" "A boy I met in school, but he left when he found out about the pregnancy. I'm raising Matt alone, with help from my grandmother, Dorothy." "Dorothy Mitchell?" "That's right. She's also from the family, your great-grandfather's sister." Daniel was discovering every minute that there was much more family around than he had imagined, and that his father had hidden all of this from him for decades. That night, Daniel came home determined to have a serious talk with Richard. His father lived in a house next to theirs, on a property the family had bought years before to stay close. "Dad, I need to talk to you." Richard was watching television in the living room, as he did every night since he retired. "What is it, son? Did something happen?" "Dad, do you know a woman named Rebecca, Aunt Helen's daughter?" Richard's face hardened instantly. "Where did you get that name?" "I met her today, and I found out she has a son who's practically identical to Ethan." Richard got up from his armchair with difficulty, leaning on his cane. "Daniel, there are things you don't understand." "Then explain it to me, Dad. Why did you cut ties with Aunt Helen's family?" "Because they were to blame for what happened to Matthew." "What blame, Dad?" "Matthew drowned in the reservoir. It was an accident." "It wasn't just an accident, Daniel. Helen was there that day. She was supposed to be watching over both of you." Daniel felt a lump in his throat. That information was new to him. "What do you mean she was there?" "Your mother had gone to town to buy medicine for you since you had a fever. Helen was responsible for both of you, but she went out to meet her boyfriend and left you alone. Dad, I was 8 years old. Matthew was too. We didn't need a babysitter. Yes, you did. And if she had been there, Matthew wouldn't have fallen into the reservoir. Richard was visibly emotional, reliving a pain kept for 3 decades. That's why I cut ties with her. I couldn't look at Helen without remembering that my son died because she was irresponsible. Daniel stayed silent for a few minutes, processing that information. Dad, but that was 30 years ago, and Rebecca isn't to blame for what happened. Rebecca is Helen's daughter. Carrying her blood is enough. That doesn't make sense, Dad. You're punishing an innocent woman for her mother's mistakes. Daniel, you don't understand because you haven't lost a son. But you can't punish an entire family for a tragedy that happened decades ago. Richard went back to his armchair and turned off the television. Son, there are things you still don't know about that day. Then tell me. Matthew wasn't alone when he fell into the reservoir. Daniel felt his blood run cold. What do you mean? Rebecca was there. The girl was about 2 years old at the time. Helen took her along when she went to watch over you. So what? Matthew fell into the water trying to get a little ball of Rebecca's that had rolled into the reservoir. Daniel needed to sit down. That information completely changed the perspective of the whole story. Dad, but that doesn't make her guilty. She was just a 2-year-old child. It was her ball, Daniel. If Helen hadn't brought the girl, if she hadn't gone out to meet her boyfriend... Dad, you're looking for culprits where there are none. It was a tragic accident, but it was an accident. It's easy for you to say that. You weren't a father when you lost Matthew. Daniel rose from his chair, visibly shaken. Dad, I'm a father now, and I can imagine the pain you felt. But I can't accept that an entire family should be punished for something that happened 30 years ago. Daniel, you're going to reopen a wound that's been healing for decades. It's not healed, Dad. It's infected, and infections need to be treated, not hidden. That night, Daniel told Jennifer everything. She listened silently, running her hand over her rounded belly. Dan, I understand your father's pain, but he's wrong to blame this family. I know, honey. But how do you convince a 70-year-old man to change his mind about something he's carried for 30 years? Maybe through Ethan and Matt. Children have a way of touching people's hearts that we adults have lost. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The next day, Daniel called Rebecca and proposed a meeting. This time he suggested she bring Matt to play with Ethan at their house. Mr. Daniel, I'm not sure that's a good idea. If your father finds out. Rebecca, my father needs to face reality, and you and Matt are part of our family, regardless of what happened in the past. But what if he gets angry? Leave it to me. It's time for some truths to come out. They arranged that Rebecca and Matt would come to their house on Saturday afternoon. Daniel didn't tell his father about the visit, but asked him to be present. Daniel, why do you want me to have lunch with you on Saturday? Because Jennifer is making that lasagna you like, Dad. All right, but I hope there are no surprises. Daniel smiled without answering. On Saturday, Jennifer prepared a carefully set table. Ethan was excited because he knew his friend Matt was coming to play. At 2 in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. Ethan, can you get the door? Asked Daniel. The boy ran excitedly to greet his friend. Richard was in the living room reading the newspaper when he heard children's voices. Grandpa, this is my friend Matt, said Ethan, entering the room pulling a boy by the arm. Richard looked up from the newspaper, and what he saw made him drop the paper on the floor. There stood a child identical to Ethan himself, but especially identical to his memories of his grandson Matthew. Hi, sir. Ethan said you're his grandpa. My grandma takes care of me too, said Matt naturally. Richard froze. He couldn't take his eyes off the child. What? What's your name, boy? Matthew, but everyone calls me Matt, like my great-grandfather who my mom said died before I was born. Richard felt his hands tremble. At that moment, Rebecca appeared at the living room door, accompanied by Daniel and Jennifer. "Good afternoon, Mr. Richard," she said softly. Richard looked her up and down, searching for familiar features. "Are you Helen's daughter?" "Yes, sir." "And this child?" "He's my son, Matt, your great-grandson." Richard slowly rose from his armchair, leaning on his cane. He walked to where Matt was playing with Ethan and crouched down with difficulty. "Boy, let me see your face." Matt stopped playing and looked at the old man with curiosity. "Did you know my great-grandfather Matthew?" "Yes, I did. He was my grandson. And you have the same name as him." "My mom said he was a really nice boy, that he liked playing with cars just like me." Richard felt his eyes well up. He extended a trembling hand and touched the boy's face. "Just like you. Yes, exactly like you." Rebecca approached slowly. "Mr. Richard, may I speak with you?" Richard rose with difficulty and nodded yes. They went out to the backyard, leaving the children playing in the living room. "Mr. Richard, I know you blame my mother for what happened to Matthew. I do blame her, and I have reasons for that. I understand your pain, but you need to know that my mother carried this guilt until the day she died." Richard looked at her surprised. "What do you mean?" "She never forgave herself for leaving that day. She spent her entire life blaming herself for Matthew's death. She should blame herself. Mr. Richard, she died asking for forgiveness. In her final days, she only spoke of Matthew and how she wished she had the chance to apologize to you." Richard felt his chest tighten. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because my mother made me promise that if I ever found the Mitchell family, I would deliver this." Rebecca took a yellowed envelope from her purse. She wrote this letter 20 years ago, but never had the courage to send it. Richard took the envelope with trembling hands. It was addressed to him, in Helen's small handwriting. "Can I read it now?" "I'd prefer to read it alone." "Of course, Mr. Richard. But I want you to know that I didn't come here to cause trouble. I came because the children found each other on their own, and perhaps that's a sign." "A sign of what?" "That it's time to heal old wounds." Richard put the letter in his pocket, and they went back inside. The children were playing happily, building a city with blocks on the living room floor. "Grandpa, look how cool. Ethan and I made a city just like the one in our dream," said Ethan. "What dream, son?" "We always dream about the same city, with colorful houses and a park in the middle. It's really strange, isn't it, Matt?" "Yeah, even my mom thought it was weird when I told her." Daniel and Rebecca exchanged glances. How could two children who barely knew each other have the same dream? "Kids, what else is in this dream of yours?" asked Jennifer. "There's a boy who plays with us. He looks like Matt, but he's a little older," said Ethan. "And he teaches us really cool games," added Matt. Richard felt a shiver. Matthew had always been the most creative when they played as children. "What's this boy in the dream like?" "Oh, Grandpa, he has curly hair like mine and likes to build things, and he always says we have to take care of each other." Richard had to sit down. The coincidences were becoming impossible to ignore. The afternoon passed quickly, with the children playing and the adults talking with some tension in the air. When it was time for Rebecca and Matt to leave, Richard offered to walk them to the door. "Rebecca, this letter from your mother, when exactly did she write it?" 20 years ago, Mr. Richard, right after I was born. She said it was when she became a mother that she truly understood the pain you felt." "And why did she wait so long?" "Because she was afraid of your reaction. And later, when she decided to look for you, she found out you had moved. We moved here 15 years ago. That's what she found out. But then she became afraid she wouldn't be welcome." Richard lowered his head. "Maybe she was right. Mr. Richard, my mother died loving this family, and she raised my son with stories about you all. Matt knows he has a big family on his father's side, even though he's never met anyone." "What do you mean?" "She told stories about great-grandfather Matthew, about how playful and affectionate he was. She told stories about you and how the Mitchell family was always united." Richard felt a lump in his throat. "Rebecca, would you like to bring Matt here other times?" "If you allow it, yes. The children got along very well. Then it's settled. And next time, Bring your grandmother Dorothy too. It's been a long time since I've seen her." Rebecca smiled for the first time since she arrived. "She'll be very happy, Mr. Richard." After they left, Richard locked himself in his room to read Helen's letter. Daniel respected his father's space, but grew worried about how long it was taking. 2 hours later, Richard came out of the room with red eyes. "Dad, are you okay?" "Daniel, I need to talk to you and Jennifer." They sat in the kitchen around the table where the children's snack dishes still lay. "Son, I made a very big mistake." "What mistake, Dad?" "Helen wasn't with a boyfriend that day. She was in the hospital." Daniel felt his heart race. "What do you mean?" "In the letter, she explains that she was feeling unwell, with strong stomach pains. She rushed to the hospital because she thought she was losing Rebecca's pregnancy." "Dad, but you said—" "I lied, Daniel, or rather I convinced myself of a lie because I needed someone to blame." Jennifer took her husband's hand, feeling his tension. "Go on, Dad." "Helen was 3 months pregnant when the accident happened. She started bleeding while taking care of you and panicked. She left a note saying where she was going, but the wind carried the paper away." "And how did you only find out about this now?" "Because at the time I didn't want to hear explanations. When she tried to talk to me, I threw her out of the house, and later, when your mother tried to convince me to give Helen a chance to explain, I forbade any contact." Daniel was stunned by this revelation. "Dad, does this mean that for 30 years you blamed Helen unfairly?" "It means that for 30 years I destroyed a family out of pride and anger." "And Rebecca, did she know all this?" "She knew. Helen told her the whole truth when she got older. That's why Rebecca treated me with such respect today, even knowing I had been unfair to her family." Jennifer interjected into the conversation. "Mr. Richard, it's never too late to fix mistakes." "Jennifer, how do I fix 30 years of injustice?" "By starting today, Dad," replied Daniel, "by opening your heart to Rebecca and Matt." "Daniel, I'm afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid of getting attached to the boy and him." Something happening. Daniel understood that his father had spent 3 decades protecting himself from the pain of losing someone again. "Dad, life has risks, but that doesn't mean we should live isolated from love." That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about all the opportunities he had missed to get to know his great-granddaughter Rebecca and great-grandson Matt. He also thought about Helen, who had carried alone a guilt that wasn't even hers. On Monday morning, he showed up at Mrs. Wilson's sewing shop. "Rebecca, I need to talk to you." She was surprised to see him there. "Mr. Richard, did something happen?" "Yes. What happened is that I read your mother's letter." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "And what did you think?" "That I've been the biggest idiot for the past 30 years. Rebecca didn't expect that answer. "Mr. Richard, Rebecca, your mother wasn't at all to blame for what happened to Matthew. And I spent 3 decades punishing you for something that didn't even happen. You didn't know. I didn't want to know, which is different. When someone we love is gone, we look for someone to blame because it's easier than accepting that some things just happen. My mother forgave you a long time ago, Mr. Richard, but I haven't forgiven myself. And now I want to try to fix at least part of the damage I've done. How? I'd like to get to know my great-grandson better, and I'd like you to truly be part of the family. Mr. Richard, that would mean a lot to me, and to me too, Rebecca." From that day on, visits between the families became frequent. Matt and Ethan were inseparable, and Richard discovered the joy of being a grandfather again. Dorothy, Rebecca's grandmother, became part of the family gatherings again. She was an 80-year-old lady, lucid and full of stories about the Mitchell family. "Richard, it's good to have you back," she said when they reunited after decades. "Dorothy, how can you not be angry with me after everything? Because anger only harms the one who feels it, and because I know you acted out of pain, not malice." The conversations with Dorothy brought back many memories. She shared family stories that Richard had forgotten and showed old photos that no one else had. "Look here, Richard. This photo is from when you and Helen were little." In the photo, Richard and Helen appeared playing in the backyard of their grandparents' house. They were about the same age as Ethan and Matt. "You looked so much alike," observed Daniel. We really did. Helen was always like a sister to me, besides being my cousin. That's why it hurt so much when you grew apart, added Dorothy. One Sunday, both families decided to have a picnic in the park, where Daniel had met Rebecca for the first time. The children ran across the lawn while the adults chatted under the shade of a tree. "Grandpa Richard, tell the story about great-grandfather Matthew again," asked Matt. "Which story do you want to hear?" "The one where he liked to build sandcastles." Richard smiled. It was one of his fondest memories of his grandson. Matthew was very creative. He could build huge sandcastles in the backyard sand, and he always made up stories about princesses and knights who lived there. "Just like me," exclaimed Ethan. "I also like to make up stories about my castles." "Me too," said Matt. "I think we got that from great-grandfather Matthew." Richard looked at the two children playing and felt a peace he hadn't experienced in decades. "Rebecca, may I ask a favor?" "Of course, Mr. Richard." "I'd like you all to come over for dinner next Sunday. I want to make a special lasagna to celebrate." "Celebrate what?" "Our family being together again." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The following Sunday, Richard personally prepared the lasagna with the help of Ethan and Matt. The boys had fun putting cheese and sauce on it, making more of a mess in the kitchen than actually helping, but filling the house with laughter. "Grandpa, you know you're the best grandpa in the world," said Ethan, licking his sauce-covered fingers. "Why, grandson?" "Because you let us mess up the kitchen and don't get mad." Matt nodded his head vigorously in agreement. "And because you tell the best stories too." Richard felt his heart warm. He was discovering that having grandchildren was one of life's greatest joys. During dinner, Dorothy told a story that no one knew. "Richard, did you know that Helen left a little box for you?" "What do you mean, Dorothy?" After the accident, she gathered several things that reminded her of Matthew. Photos, drawings, little toys. She kept them in a small wooden box. "And where is this box?" "I have it. Helen asked me to give it to you if you ever reconciled." Daniel and Richard exchanged glances. "Dorothy, why didn't you bring it today?" "Because I thought it might be too emotional for Richard." "No, Dorothy. I would really like to see it." The next day, Dorothy showed up at Richard's house carrying a small carved wooden box. "This box belonged to my husband. Helen chose it because she said it needed to be something special to hold Matthew's memories." Richard opened the box with trembling hands. Inside were photos of Matthew he had never seen, drawings the boy had made in school, and some small toys. "My God, where did Helen get these photos?" "Some she took during the days she cared for you. Others she got from your mother before she passed away." Richard picked up a photo where Matthew was playing with toy cars in the backyard. "Look, Daniel, Matthew is wearing the same red shirt that Ethan likes to wear." "You're right, Dad. The resemblance is striking." At the bottom of the box there was a small letter written in a child's handwriting. "To my family, if someday I'm no longer here, I want you to know that I loved you forever. And I want you to always stay united, because family is the most important thing in the world. Matthew." Richard began to cry upon reading those words. "Helen kept this all these years?" "Yes, she did. And she said you needed to read it when you were ready to accept that Matthew still lives in the family's heart." That afternoon, Richard called Ethan and Matt to see their great-grandfather Matthew's things. "Boys, would you like to see some of your great-grandfather's belongings?" The children sat on the floor around the box, curious. "Look, Grandpa, this little car looks just like mine," said Ethan, picking up a small red car. "And this drawing looks like the ones I make at school," observed Matt, holding a paper with a colorful house drawing. "You two really take after Matthew," said Richard. "Grandpa, can I ask a question?" said Ethan. "Of course, grandson. Why didn't you talk to Matt's family for so long?" Richard looked at Daniel, who nodded encouragingly. "Because sometimes, when we're very sad, we make wrong choices. And I made a very wrong choice." "But now you're friends again, right?" asked Matt. "Yes, we are, and we'll stay that way forever." "That's good," said Ethan, "because I really like having Matt as my cousin." "Cousin?" asked Richard. "Yeah, Grandpa. Matt's mom is our cousin, so he's our cousin. Our teacher explained that to us. Richard smiled, realizing how children could simplify situations that adults complicated. A few days later, Jennifer started feeling unwell. She was 8 months pregnant and the doctors said she needed more rest. "Dan, I can't stay in bed all day. I get anxious." "Sweetheart, it's just a few more weeks." "But what about Ethan? He gets very restless when he can't play outside." That's when Rebecca offered to help. "Mr. Daniel, may I take Ethan to play with Matt some afternoons? That way Jennifer can rest and the children can have fun." "Rebecca, you don't have to trouble yourself." "It's no trouble. It's family taking care of family." Those words touched Daniel deeply. For years he and Jennifer had raised Ethan practically alone, with only Richard around. Now they were discovering what it meant to have an extended family. Rebecca started picking up Ethan from school 3 times a week. The boys would go to her house where they played under grandmother Dorothy's care. "Aunt Dorothy, tell us a Mitchell family story," Miguel would ask. "Which story would you like to hear today?" "The one about the great-grandfather who built the house with his own hands," Matt would request. Dorothy told the family stories with such affection that the children were enchanted. And gradually, Ethan came to know his family roots. One day, Ethan came home very excited. "Daddy, Aunt Dorothy showed me a really cool photo today." "What photo, son?" "Of the cemetery where you used to bring flowers to great-grandfather Matthew when you were little." Daniel felt a tightness in his chest. "And what did you think of the photo?" "I thought great-grandfather has a very beautiful place to rest, and Aunt Dorothy said we can go there to bring flowers if we want." "Would you like to go?" "Yes, I would. Matt and I want to bring him a drawing." Daniel spoke with Rebecca about visiting the cemetery. "Mr. Daniel, I think it would be good for the children. They already know Matthew's story and aren't afraid. But what if they ask difficult questions? Children ask direct questions, but they accept honest answers. They understand better than we think." The following Saturday, the whole family went to the cemetery. Ethan and Matt brought colorful drawings they had made during the week. "Great-grandfather Matthew, we brought you a present," said Ethan, placing the drawing on the headstone. "It's a drawing of our whole family together," explained Matt. "You're here in the middle, watching over all of us." Richard was moved to see the 2 boys talking naturally with the memory of the twin brother. "Grandpa, do you think great-grandfather Matthew is happy when he sees us together?" asked Ethan. "I'm sure he is, grandson. Matthew always wanted the family to be united." "Then he must be very happy now," said Matt with conviction. At that moment, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the surrounding trees, making the drawings flutter softly over the headstone. "Look, great-grandpa is saying hi to us," said Ethan, pointing to the papers. Richard smiled, feeling that perhaps Ethan was right. 2 weeks later, Jennifer went into labor. Daniel rushed her to the hospital, leaving Ethan with Richard. "Grandpa, is my little sister being born?" "Yes, grandson. Soon you'll get to meet her." "And can Matt meet her too?" "Of course he can. She'll be his cousin." At the hospital, Daniel called Rebecca to share the news. "Rebecca, Jennifer is having the baby. Can you tell Matt he's going to have a little cousin?" "What joy, Mr. Daniel. Matt will be thrilled." After 8 hours of labor, Sophia was born, a girl with dark hair and light eyes. "She's beautiful, love," said Daniel, kissing Jennifer's sweaty forehead. "She has your family's eyes, Dan." "She does indeed." The same green eyes as the Mitchells. When they brought Sophia home, Ethan was enchanted with his little sister. "Daddy, can I show her to Matt?" "Yes, son, but be careful, because she's very tiny." Matt was amazed when he saw the baby. "She looks just like a little doll, and she has the same eyes as us." "That's because she's part of the Mitchell family too," explained Ethan proudly. "Now we're 3 cousins," said Matt, counting on his little fingers. Richard watched the scene with a smile on his face. His family had grown so much in recent months that it sometimes felt like a dream. 1 month after Sophia's birth, Dorothy had an idea. "Richard, how about we throw a party to introduce Sophia to the whole family?" "The whole family?" "Yes. There are some distant cousins who live in other cities. It would be good to gather everyone." "Dorothy, it's been so long since I've seen those relatives." "Exactly why? You lost 30 years with Helen's side of the family. You can't waste any more time with the rest. Richard thought it was a good idea. He decided to host a party in his backyard, inviting all the relatives he could locate. On the day of the party, people arrived whom Richard hadn't seen in decades. Cousins, distant uncles, and even some old family friends. "Richard, how you've changed," said a cousin who had come from New York. "You too, Anthony. But the most important thing is that we're all here." Ethan and Matt ran around the yard, introducing Sophia to all the guests. "This is my cousin Matt," Ethan said to each person, "and this is my sister Sophia. She's the youngest in the family." Matt added proudly, "And I'm the new Matthew." The old Matthew became a little star in the sky. The adults were moved by the children's naturalness when talking about the family. During the party, one of Richard's cousins brought up Helen. "Richard, I heard you reconciled with Helen's family." "Yes, Caroline, and it was the best thing I've done in years. I always thought what happened to her was unfair. Helen was such a good girl. I know that now. It took me too long to accept the truth. What matters is that you accepted it. And now the family is reunited again." Rebecca circulated through the party, helping serve the guests. Many relatives greeted her affectionately, saying she had her mother's way about her. "Rebecca, you're just like Helen when she was your age," said an aunt. "They say that, especially in the way of caring for others. Your mother had that gift too, always concerned about everyone." At the end of the party, when the last guests had left, the family gathered in the living room to talk. "It was a perfect day," said Jennifer, nursing Sophia on the sofa. "It really was," agreed Daniel. "It's been so long since I've seen the house full of family." "And the best part was seeing Ethan and Matt having so much fun," added Rebecca. Richard was visibly moved. "You know what impressed me the most today?" "What, Dad?" "How everyone accepted you all so naturally, as if you had never been apart from the family." "That's because family is family, Mr. Richard," said Dorothy. "No matter how much time passes, the blood ties remain." "Grandma Dorothy is right," said Ethan, who was half asleep in his father's lap. "Family is forever." Matt, who was leaning against Rebecca, added, "And now our family is really big. We even have a baby." Everyone laughed at Matt's remark. The following month, Richard had an idea that surprised everyone. "Daniel, I've been thinking about something." "Go ahead, Dad." "How about we renovate the family farm?" "Which farm?" "The one that belonged to your grandfather. It's been abandoned for years, but it's still ours." Daniel knew about the farm but had never paid much attention to it. "Why renovate it, Dad?" "To be a meeting place for the family. A place where everyone can gather, have barbecues, let the kids play." "That's an interesting idea. And there's more. I thought about turning part of the land into a community garden. Teach Ethan and Matt how to plant. Show them where food comes from." Rebecca thought the idea was wonderful. "Mr. Richard, that would be perfect. Matt loves playing in the dirt." "And Ethan too," said Daniel. "He's always wanting to plant little seeds at home." They decided then that they would invest in renovating the farm. It was a large property with an old house that needed repairs, but it had a lot of potential. On weekends, the whole family went to the farm to help with the renovations. While the adults worked on the house, Ethan and Matt explored the grounds. "Matt, look here, there's a tree with a little house," shouted Ethan from afar. It was an old tree house, built decades earlier for the family's children. "Wow, can we play here?" asked Matt, excited. "Of course," replied Richard. "This tree house was made for your father and Uncle Matthew when they were little." "Really? Dad played here?" "He sure did, and Matthew too." The children climbed into the treehouse, which despite the years was still sturdy. "Grandpa, there are some drawings in here," shouted Ethan. Richard climbed up to see. On the wall of the little house, there were pencil drawings made by him and Matthew when they were children. "My goodness, this is still here." "What is it, Grandpa?" "They're drawings that Matthew and I made over 40 years ago." Ethan looked fascinated at the drawings on the wall. "Can I draw here too?" "Yes, you can, grandson. This house is yours and Matt's now. And Sophia's when she grows up. And Sophia's too." During the farm renovations, there were some exciting discoveries. While cleaning the basement of the house, they found a box full of old toys. "Daniel, look what I found here," said Richard, holding a wooden car. This car, isn't that the one Matthew liked so much? Yes, it is. And here are other toys that belong to both of you. Ethan and Matt were delighted with the vintage toys. Can I play with this car, Grandpa? Yes, you can, Ethan. I'm sure Matthew would be happy to know you're playing with his toys. One weekend, Dorothy showed up at the farm carrying an old suitcase. Richard, I brought a few more things that belong to the family. What's in this suitcase, Dorothy? Children's clothes that belong to several generations of the Mitchells. I thought maybe Sophia could use some when she grows up. Jennifer was moved when she saw the old little clothes. They're beautiful, Mrs. Dorothy. And what perfect handiwork. These were made by your great-grandmother. She embroidered everything by hand. Jennifer saved some pieces for Sophia, suggested Daniel. It would be nice for her to wear clothes that other children in the family have already worn. Over the months, the property began to transform. The old house got a fresh look, the backyard was organized, and the community garden started bearing its first fruits. Grandpa, look, my zucchini is growing, celebrated Matt, pointing to a small plant. And my tomato is turning red, said Ethan proudly. You two are great gardeners, praised Richard. The garden became one of the children's favorite activities. They learned about the plant cycle, the importance of water and sunlight, and most importantly, discovered the joy of eating something they had grown themselves. One day, Ethan asked a question that surprised everyone. Grandpa, can I plant a tree for great-grandfather Matthew? What do you mean, grandson? I want to plant a really beautiful tree for him, so that when we come here we always remember him. Richard was moved by the idea. Of course you can, Ethan. What kind of tree do you want to plant? One that has colorful flowers. Matt said great-grandfather liked colors. They went to the plant store to choose a special sapling. Ethan picked a yellow trumpet tree, which when in bloom would fill the property with color. On planting day, they held a small family ceremony. Great-grandfather Matthew, this tree is for you, said Ethan, placing soil around the sapling. So you'll always be part of our family. Matt helped with the planting, and together they watered the new tree. Grandpa, when the flowers appear, will great-grandfather be happy? I'm sure he will, Matt. Sophia, who was already 6 months old, babbled in Jennifer's arms as if she were also taking part in the tribute. Months passed and the property became the family's meeting place. Every Sunday, everyone gathered there for lunch, play, and to tend the garden. Ethan and Matt grew up like brothers, sharing secrets and adventures. Sophia started crawling and soon discovered she loved playing in the garden soil, much to Jennifer's dismay. This girl is going to come out all dirty, Jennifer complained, but unable to truly get angry. Let her play, honey, said Daniel. Children need to connect with nature. Richard, at 71 years old, had rediscovered the joy of living. He started waking up earlier to tend the garden before breakfast, and in the afternoon he played with his grandchildren until sunset. Dad, you're looking younger, observed Daniel one Sunday. That's because I am younger, son. When you have reasons to smile, age doesn't weigh as much. Rebecca also flourished in those months. Her work as a seamstress was going well, and she had resumed her evening studies to finish high school. Rebecca, why did you decide to go back to school? Asked Jennifer. I want to set an example for Matt, and I also want to have more job opportunities. Your determination is very admirable. It's just that now I have a family supporting me. That makes all the difference. Dorothy, even at 80 years old, was the most lively of all. She became the family's unofficial librarian, always telling stories and preserving memories. Grandma Dorothy, tell that story about the great-grandfather who built the house, requested Sophia, who was already speaking a few words. Again, Sophia? Don't you get tired of that story? No, it's the best story in the world. And Dorothy would tell it again, with the endless patience of someone who understands the importance of preserving family memory. 1 year after starting the property renovations, Richard had a surprise. He received a letter from a lawyer informing him that he had inherited a piece of land from a distant uncle. Daniel, look at this letter. What does it say, Dad? It says that Uncle Sebastian, my grandfather's brother, died and left a piece of land for the Mitchell descendants. Really? What land is it? It's next to our property. This means we now have double the space. The family was excited about the possibility of expanding the property project. We could make a larger recreational area, suggested Rebecca. And plant more fruit trees, added Richard. And make a little soccer field for the kids, said Daniel. Ethan and Matt were thrilled with the idea of the soccer field. We'll be able to play soccer on our own field, celebrated Ethan. And invite our school friends to play too, said Matt. With the larger land, Richard had an even more ambitious idea. What if we created a social project on the property? What kind of project, Dad? A place where other families from the community can come to learn about agriculture, the environment, and especially about the importance of family bonds. That's a beautiful idea, Mr. Richard, said Rebecca. Especially for families facing relationship problems. Exactly. We can share our reconciliation experience. Jennifer really liked the idea. Imagine how many families could benefit from a project like this. And the children could help by teaching about the garden, added Daniel. They then began planning a project they called United Family. The idea was to welcome other families going through conflicts and show how it's possible to overcome differences through dialogue and love. The project started small, hosting one family at a time on weekends. Richard and Dorothy would tell their reconciliation story, while Ethan and Matt showed the garden and the treehouse. The first family they hosted was a divorced mother who was having difficulties relating to her ex-husband's family. "My situation is quite different from yours," said the woman, named Sarah. "Every situation is different," replied Richard, "but the foundation for resolving family conflicts is always the same, willingness to forgive and start over. But how did you manage to forgive so many years of hurt?" "One day at a time," said Dorothy, "and always remembering that family is the most precious thing we have." Sarah spent the day observing how the Mitchell family interacted. She saw Richard playing with his grandchildren, Rebecca tenderly caring for Sophia, and most importantly, noticed how everyone respected and supported each other. "You make it look so easy," she commented at the end of the day. "It's not easy," admitted Daniel. "But it's worth it. Every day we spend united is one more day of happiness for everyone." Sarah left the property more hopeful about her own family situation. The project grew through referrals. Families that had been helped would refer other families. Soon, the weekend schedule was always full. Ethan and Matt became little ambassadors of the project. They taught other children how to plant, told stories about the family, and most importantly, showed how cousins can be best friends. "Aunt, why do you fight with your brother?" Ethan asked a visitor. "Because he did something very mean to me, Ethan. But did he apologize? No." "Then he doesn't know he did something mean. You need to explain it to him." The simplicity of the children often touched the adults more deeply than any elaborate speech. Matt also had his special way of helping. "My grandpa Richard was angry with my family for a long time," he told an elderly man visiting the property. "But then he discovered that being angry wasn't nice." "And how did he discover that?" "Because he met me and saw that I'm nice," replied Matt with the naturalness of children. Richard watched from afar, proud to see how his grandchildren were learning about the importance of family and reconciliation. 2 years after the project began, Richard received an unexpected invitation. The City Council wanted to learn about the United Family project to consider it as a model for other communities. "Mr. Richard, we heard you've developed very interesting work here at the estate," said the social worker from the council. "It's a simple project, but it has been yielding positive results. We'd like to document your work and perhaps expand it to other neighborhoods in the city." Daniel felt proud of the recognition the project was receiving. "Dad, imagine if we could help hundreds of families." "That would be wonderful, son. But it's important not to lose the project's essence." "What is the essence?" "Genuine love for people. The moment it becomes just a job, it loses its meaning." The recognition brought more visitors to the estate. Psychology students came to learn about the methodology, journalists wanted to tell the story, and other cities sent representatives to learn about the project. Ethan and Matt, now 8 years old, were local celebrities. They appeared in interviews in the city newspaper, talking about the importance of family. "Ethan, how do you help other families?" asked the journalist. "We show that it's cool to have a big family, and we teach how to grow healthy food." "And you, Matt? What do you like most about the project?" I like when people stop being mad at each other. Everyone gets happier. Sophia, now 2 years old, also participated in the activities. She had become the project's mascot, always running around the estate and bringing smiles to visitors' faces. "This girl has a special gift," observed Dorothy. "She can cheer up anyone with just a smile." It was true. Sophia had a captivating personality and a special intuition for approaching people who needed affection the most. One Sunday afternoon, while hosting a troubled family, Sophia went straight to an elderly lady who was visibly depressed. "Grandma sad?" asked Sophia, climbing onto the lady's lap without ceremony. The woman, who had lost contact with her own grandchildren due to family conflicts, began to cry. "She has grandchildren Sophia's age," Richard explained quietly to Jennifer. "I understand. Sophia must have awakened her longing." By the end of that day, the lady had committed to trying reconciliation with her family. "You showed me that I can't waste any more time away from my grandchildren," she said, still emotional. "We can't recover lost time," said Richard, "but the time we have ahead can still be wonderful." The project grew so much that Richard decided to formalize the activities. They created a small non-governmental organization called Seeds of Family Peace. Rebecca became the administrative coordinator, Daniel handled the financial part, and Richard was the general coordinator. Dorothy was responsible for cultural activities and preserving family memory. "I never imagined our family reconciliation would generate something so big," said Rebecca. "Sometimes the best things come from the most painful experiences," reflected Richard. "The important thing is that we transformed our pain into a tool to help others." Ethan and Matt, now 9 years old, already talked about pursuing careers in social work when they grew up. "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to have a project like yours," said Ethan. "And I want to be a teacher to teach children about family," added Matt. Richard felt emotional seeing how the children had absorbed the project's values. "You can be whatever you want, boys. The important thing is to always remember that family is the foundation of everything." Sophia, even though small, already showed interest in helping people. Whenever she saw someone sad, she would offer a hug or a drawing. "This girl is going to be a social worker when she grows up," predicted Jennifer. "Or a child psychologist," added Daniel. "She has a special way with children." 5 years after the family reconciliation began, Richard gave an emotional reflection during Sunday dinner. "Everyone, I want to give a special thank you today." "Thank who, Grandpa?" asked Ethan. "To all of you, for helping me realize that family truly is the most precious thing we have." "Grandpa, you saved our family," said Matt. "No, my grandson. You two are the ones who saved our family. When you met at that school playground, you started a new story for all of us." Rebecca got emotional, remembering everything that had happened. "Mr. Richard, thank you for opening your heart to us. Rebecca, thank you for insisting on looking for us. If you hadn't brought Matt to Ethan's school, we might never have reunited." "I think it was fate," said Dorothy. "Helen always said things happen at the right time." Daniel looked at Jennifer and Sophia, who was playing on her mother's lap. "Today our family has 4 generations together. It's everyone's dream. And there's another generation on the way," announced Jennifer with a smile. Everyone stopped eating and looked at her. "What do you mean, honey?" "I'm pregnant again, Dan." The table erupted in cheers of joy. Ethan and Matt started jumping and celebrating. "Am I going to have another little brother?" asked Ethan. "Or little sister," added Matt. Sophia, who still didn't quite understand what was happening, started clapping because everyone was happy. Richard got up from his chair and hugged Jennifer. "Another grandchild for this blessed family. Another little seed for our family to grow even more," said Dorothy, always poetic. The news of the new pregnancy gave even more energy to the family's projects. They decided to expand the property once again, creating a specific area for young children. "When our baby is born, they'll have the best playground in the world," said Daniel, stroking Jennifer's belly. "And they'll have the best siblings and cousins too," added Rebecca. Ethan and Matt were already making plans for the new family member. "We'll teach them how to plant," said Ethan. "And how to play soccer," added Matt. "And how to take care of the little animals," reminded Sophia, who had received some bunnies as gifts at the property. During Jennifer's second pregnancy, the family continued welcoming other families to the project. Now they had a well-structured methodology and had already helped over 100 families reconcile. "Richard, you've created something truly special here," said a psychologist who visited the project. "The secret is working with genuine love for people." "Yes, that's evident in every activity. Families feel the authenticity of your work." The psychologist was interested in studying the project as the subject for his doctoral thesis. "We'd like permission to scientifically document the project's results." "Of course," said Daniel. "The more people know that family reconciliation is possible, the better." 6 months later, Gabriel was born, a boy with dark eyes and an easy smile. Ethan, Matt, and Sophia were enchanted with their little brother. "He's tiny like Sophia was," observed Ethan. "But he's already strong enough to hold my finger," said Matt, impressed. Sophia, now 3 years old, felt very important being the big sister. "I'll take care of Gabriel," she announced to everyone. Jennifer smiled, seeing the harmony between the children. "Dan, our home is always full of love and joy." "That's how it should be, honey. A house with happy children is a blessed house." Richard, now 76 years old, was radiant with the new grandson. "Gabriel looks just like Matthew when he was a baby," he observed, looking at old photos. "Really?" asked Rebecca. "Exactly the same way of sleeping with his little hands closed." Dorothy, always attentive to family details, made an interesting observation. "Richard, have you noticed we now have 5 children in the family? Ethan, Matt, Sophia, Gabriel, and Matthew in our hearts." "That's true, Dorothy. Matthew has always been part of this family gathering, even if he's not physically with us. The children feel that. They talk about their great-grandfather as if he were here." It was true. Ethan and Matt always included Matthew in their games and prayers. "Great-grandpa Matthew, watch over Gabriel so he grows up strong," Ethan would say every night before bed. The Seeds of Family Peace project also grew with Gabriel's arrival. Many families visiting the estate felt inspired, seeing how a large family could be so harmonious. "How do you manage to raise so many children without conflicts?" asked a mother visiting the project. "By teaching them that siblings are companions, not competitors," replied Daniel. "And how do you do that?" "Each child gets special one-on-one time with the adults. No one gets left out," explained Jennifer. "And they all learn to care for each other from an early age," added Rebecca. The visitors watched Ethan helping Matt with homework, Sophia singing to stop Gabriel from crying, and all the children collaborating on estate chores. "It's inspiring to see how you've transformed your lives," said one visitor. "We haven't transformed anything," said Richard. "We just discovered what was always here: family love." Gabriel's first birthday was celebrated with a big party at the estate. All families who had participated in the project were invited. "This party celebrates not just Gabriel's birthday, but one more year of our family being reunited," Richard said in his speech. "And to thank all the families who've shared their stories with us," added Rebecca. Ethan and Matt, now 10 years old, gave a special presentation telling the Mitchell family story. "Our family almost got lost because of sadness and anger," Ethan told the audience. "But love was stronger and brought everyone back," Matt continued. "And now we help other families find love too," they finished together. The audience applauded emotionally. Many attendees had experienced their own family reconciliations, inspired by the Mitchells' example. 4-year-old Sophia also wanted to join the presentation. "Family is really nice," she said into the microphone, making everyone laugh with her childish pronunciation. Gabriel, in Jennifer's arms, babbled as if he wanted to speak too. "I think Gabriel agrees with Sophia," Daniel joked. During the party, Richard received a special surprise. The City Council presented a recognition plaque for the social work developed at the estate. "On behalf of the community, we thank the Mitchell family for promoting family peace," said the mayor. "This recognition isn't just ours," Richard said in his acceptance speech. "It belongs to all families who had the courage to start over." The party lasted late into the night. Children running around the estate, adults sharing experiences, and a general feeling of gratitude and happiness. When everyone had left, the family gathered on the house porch to talk. "It was a perfect day," said Jennifer. "It really was," agreed Rebecca. Seeing so many happy families together is moving. Ethan and Matt were tired but happy. "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to have parties like this every week," said Ethan. "And I want our family to always stay together," said Matt. Richard looked at his grandchildren, and at Dorothy, who even at 85 still participated in everything with energy. "You know what I've learned all these years?" "What, Dad?" "That family isn't just blood. It's a choice. It's deciding every day that we want to be together, care for each other, and build happy memories." "You're right, Mr. Richard," said Dorothy. "Family is the garden we cultivate every day." Sophia, sleepy in her father's lap, murmured, "Family is love." Gabriel slept peacefully in Jennifer's arms, surrounded by people who loved him unconditionally. "Children have a special wisdom," observed Rebecca. "They see the essence of things." "That's why they're the ones who heal adults' wounds," said Daniel, remembering how Ethan and Matt had been crucial to the family reconciliation. That night, Richard stayed awake, thinking about the whole journey they had lived through. From a family shattered by pain, they had become a large, united and happy family. He remembered Matthew and whispered a prayer of gratitude. "Thank you, my little grandson, for sending Ethan and Matt to bring us together. Our family is complete now." A gentle breeze swayed the bedroom curtains, as if Matthew was responding that he had always been there, watching over everyone. The next day, Sunday, the family gathered as always for lunch at the estate. It was a tradition that had become sacred to everyone. "Everyone, I have some news," said Rebecca during dessert. "What news?" everyone asked curiously. "I received an offer to coordinate a project similar to ours in another city." "Really? Which city?" "Boston. Their city hall wants to implement the Seeds of Family Peace model in 3 neighborhoods. Daniel became worried. "Would that mean you'd move there?" "Not necessarily. I can make regular trips to implement the project and train the local teams." Richard became thoughtful. "Rebecca, do you think you're ready for this challenge?" "I think so, Mr. Richard, and it would be a way to bring our experience to more families." "Then you have my full support," said Richard. "And mine too," added Daniel. Ethan and Matt got excited about the prospect of Aunt Rebecca helping other families. "Aunt Becky, are you going to teach other kids how to plant?" asked Ethan. "Yes, I am, and you can help me by preparing educational materials." "That's so cool," said Matt. "We can make drawings explaining how to take care of the garden." Sophia also wanted to participate. "I'll make pretty drawings for the children." Gabriel, even though small, babbled as if he understood the conversation. The Boston proposal was accepted, and Rebecca began traveling bi-weekly to the coastal city. Ethan and Matt really helped by creating educational materials, and Sophia contributed with her colorful drawings. The success of the project in Boston opened doors to other cities. In no time, Richard and his family were guiding the implementation of similar projects in 5 different cities. "Dad, imagine how many families we're managing to help," said Daniel. "It's rewarding to know that our story is inspiring people in other places." "And the best part is that each city adapts the project to its reality," observed Rebecca. 1 year later, Richard received an invitation that surprised him greatly. "Daniel, look at this letter." "What does it say, Dad?" "It's an invitation to give a lecture at the university about family reconciliation." "Really? Which university?" "The University of Southern California. They want me to tell our story to psychology and social work students." Daniel felt proud. "Dad, you've become a reference on the subject." "I'm not a reference for anything, son. I'm just a man who learned that it's never too late to fix mistakes." Richard accepted the invitation and took the whole family to Los Angeles. It was Gabriel's first trip, who was 2 years old at the time. "Gabriel, look at the ocean," said Sophia, excited about the beach. "Big water," replied Gabriel, trying to run toward the waves. Ethan and Matt were impressed with the city. "Grandpa, is this where you're going to talk about our family?" asked Ethan. "Yes, it is, grandson. And you'll be in the audience giving me strength." The lecture was a success. Richard shared the entire family story, from Matthew's accident to the reconciliation and the social project. The audience was moved and asked many questions. "Professor Richard, what was the most difficult moment in this whole process?" asked a student. It was when I realized I had wasted 30 years blaming innocent people. The pain of loss is terrible, but the pain of remorse is even worse. And what was the happiest moment? When I saw my grandson Ethan playing with my great-grandson Matt for the first time, that's when I understood that family is about the future, not the past. After the lecture, several students approached to talk with the family. "It's inspiring to see how you managed to turn pain into love," said a young man. "And how the children were key in this process," observed a young woman. Ethan and Matt, now 11 years old, answered some questions with their usual ease. "How did you feel when you found out you were cousins?" asked a student. "It was cool because we always knew we looked alike," Ethan replied. "And because now we have a really big family," Matt added. Sophia, 5 years old, also caught the student's attention. "Sophia, do you like having so many brothers and cousins?" "Yes, I never have to play alone." Gabriel in Jennifer's arms waved at the students, making everyone smile. The trip to Los Angeles marked a new chapter in the family's story. They realized their experience had a national reach and could inspire people far beyond their city. Back at the farm, Richard reflected on all the events of the past few years. "Dorothy, sometimes it feels like I'm living a dream." "Why, Richard?" "Because a few years ago our family was torn apart, and today we're a model of family unity." "It's because you had the courage to face the past and build a new future. But none of this would be possible without the children. They were the true architects of this reconciliation." Dorothy watched Ethan and Matt playing with Sophia and Gabriel in the backyard. "Children are angels in disguise, Richard. They see with their hearts, not with their eyes." "You're right. And now they're teaching other children to see with their hearts too." The Seeds of Family Peace project continued to grow. It had already been implemented in 10 cities, always with local adaptations, but keeping the essence of the work developed by the Mitchell family. Rebecca had become a recognized consultant in the field of family reconciliation. She traveled across the country guiding new projects, but always returned to the farm on weekends. "How is this experience of traveling so much?" Jennifer asked. "It's tiring, but very rewarding. Every family that manages to reconcile is a victory for all of us." "And Matt, how is he handling your absences?" "Fine, because he understands I'm helping other families, and because he knows I always come back home." Matt truly understood the importance of his mother's work. "My mom is like a superhero," he told his school friends. "She saves families." Ethan was also proud of the work his family had developed. "Teacher, my family has a social project," he shared during a school presentation. "What kind of project, Ethan?" "We teach families to stop fighting and start loving each other." The teacher became interested and asked Ethan to bring his family for a lecture at the school. "Of course. My grandpa loves telling our story." The presentation at Ethan and Matt's school was another success. The students' parents were moved by the story, and some sought out the project for their own families. "It's amazing how your story touches people," observed the school principal. "It's because every family has its conflicts," Richard replied, "and when they see it's possible to overcome them, they feel hopeful." Sophia, now 6 years old and attending the same school, also participated in the presentation. "My family is the best in the world," she said into the microphone. "Why, Sophia?" "Because everyone loves each other and nobody stays mad forever." Gabriel, 3 years old, was beginning to understand the family project. "Daddy, why do people come to our house?" he asked. "To learn to love their families just like we love ours." "Oh, and do they learn?" "Yes, they do, son. Just like you learned to walk and talk." Gabriel's 3rd birthday was celebrated with a themed party at the farm. The chosen theme was family, and each guest brought a photo of their own family. "What a beautiful idea for a party," said one of the mothers present. "It was the children's idea," explained Jennifer. "They wanted to celebrate not just Gabriel's birthday, but all families." Ethan and Matt organized an exhibition with all the photos brought by the guests. "Look how many different families there are," observed Matt. "They're all beautiful in their own way," added Ethan. Sophia helped decorate the exhibition space with colorful drawings of families. "Sophia, your drawings are beautiful," praised a visitor. "Thank you. I like drawing happy families." Gabriel ran among the guests, receiving congratulations and hugs from everyone. "This boy is very sociable," observed Richard. "Just like Matthew used to be," remembered Dorothy. "Children who grow up with lots of love naturally become affectionate." During the party, Richard made a special announcement. "Everyone, I want to share some news with you." All paid attention. "I just received confirmation that our story will become a book." "Really, Grandpa?" asked Ethan and Matt excitedly. "Yes. A publisher wants to publish our story so more people can learn about our project." "And will we appear in the book?" asked Sophia. "You're the main characters of the story, my granddaughter." Gabriel didn't quite understand what a book was, but he clapped because everyone was happy. The news about the book greatly excited the family. It was another way to promote the project and inspire other families. "Dad, imagine how many people will read our story," said Daniel. "And how many families might be inspired to reconcile," added Rebecca. "The most important thing is that the story will be recorded for future generations of our family," observed Dorothy. Ethan had a creative idea. "Grandpa, can we include photos of the farm and our garden in the book?" "Of course we can, grandson. The photos will help people better understand our project." Matt also suggested something. "And can we put Sophia's drawings in too?" "Great idea. Sophia's drawings show how children see family." Sophia was thrilled to know her drawings would appear in the book. "I'll make a really beautiful drawing for the cover." The book creation process took 6 months. The family collaborated with photos, interviews, and testimonials. The result was a moving work that told not only the story of reconciliation, but also offered practical guidance for other families. The launch of the book Seeds of Peace, a story of family reconciliation, was held at the farm itself, with the presence of all the families who had participated in the project. "This book represents all of your dreams," said Richard during the launch. "It's proof that family love can transform not just one family, but an entire community," added the publisher. Ethan and Matt read excerpts from the book aloud to the guests. "Family isn't perfect, but it's permanent. It's where we find strength to face the world and peace to rest our souls," read Ethan. "Children see with their hearts and teach us that love is stronger than any hurt," read Matt. Sophia showed her drawings that appeared in the book, explaining each one. "This drawing is of our whole family together at the farm. And this one is from great-grandfather Matthew watching over us from heaven." Gabriel, now 4 years old, was flipping through the book curiously. "Mommy, why did they make a book about our family?" "So other families can learn to be happy like us," explained Jennifer. The book had a bigger impact than they expected. Soon it was being sold in various cities and receiving positive reviews in the press. "Richard, you've created something that will inspire generations," said a journalist who came to interview the family. "We just lived our lives with love and honesty. The rest happened naturally. But this naturally resulted in a nationally recognized social project and now a book that's touching thousands of people." "It's because the story is true," said Ethan, joining the interview. "People can feel when something is real." "And what message do you want to convey with this book?" asked the journalist. "That it's never too late to fix mistakes," replied Richard. "And that family is the most important treasure we have," added Matt. 1 year after the book's release, the family received a special invitation to appear on a national television program. "Dad, is this really national?" asked Daniel, still incredulous. "Yes, son. The program airs across the entire United States." "Grandpa, are we going to be on TV?" asked an excited Ethan and Matt. "Yes, we are, and you'll tell our story to millions of people." Sophia was worried about a practical matter. "Grandpa, what should I wear on TV?" "Whatever you want, my granddaughter. The important thing is that you be yourself." Gabriel didn't quite understand what television was, but he sensed it was something important. "Daddy, is everyone going to see our family?" "Yes, son. And they'll learn about family love." The program was recorded in New York. The whole family traveled to the capital, and it was an exciting experience for everyone. "Wow, New York is so big," observed Ethan, looking out the hotel window. "There are so many tall buildings," said an impressed Matt. Sophia was more interested in the television studio. "Where are the cameras? Can I wave at them?" Gabriel wanted to explore everything. "Daddy, can I press these buttons?" "No, son. This equipment is very delicate. On recording day, the family was warmly welcomed by the program's crew. The host spoke with everyone before starting. Folks, just relax and be natural. You're going to tell a beautiful story, so there's no reason to be nervous. Richard was the first to be interviewed. Mr. Richard, how did this story of family reconciliation begin? It began when my grandson Ethan recognized a photo at the cemetery and said that child had played with him the day before. And that child was... It was my great-grandson, Matt, whom I didn't know because I had cut ties with part of the family 30 years ago. The host conducted the interview sensitively, allowing Richard to tell the whole story without rush. Then it was Rebecca's turn to share her perspective. Rebecca, what was it like growing up knowing there was a family you couldn't contact? It was difficult, especially for my mother. She carried guilt that wasn't even hers for 30 years. And when you finally met? It was emotional and scary at the same time. I was afraid of rejection but also had a lot of hope. Ethan and Matt were interviewed together. Boys, did you immediately notice you looked alike? Yes, they replied together. Everyone at school mentioned it. And how did you feel when you discovered you were cousins? It was amazing, said Ethan. I always wanted a younger brother, and I found out I had a cousin my age. And for me, it was cool to have a big family, added Matt. Before it was just me, my mom and my grandmother. Sophia also participated in the interview. Sophia, what's it like having such a big family? It's really cool. There's always someone to play with and to help me. And what's your favorite part of the family project? I like when people get happy and stop fighting. Gabriel was introduced at the end as the youngest in the family. And this is Gabriel, our little ambassador of family peace, said the host. Gabriel waved at the cameras and gave a smile that melted the hearts of the entire crew. The show aired on a Tuesday night and had a surprising audience. The next day, the family's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Richard, there are hundreds of people wanting to learn about the project, said Daniel, answering another call. And many families asking for help to reconcile, added Rebecca. The impact of the show was so great that they decided to create a website to better organize the demands. I need help answering so many messages, said Rebecca. We can ask some former project participants to help, suggested Daniel. Good idea. Those who've been helped can help others. That's how the volunteer network Seeds of Peace was born, made up of people who had participated in the project and wanted to multiply the experience. Grandpa, now we have helpers in several cities, observed Ethan. That's how good things spread, grandson, through people who believe in love. 2 years after appearing on the TV show, Richard was 80 years old and reflecting on everything that had happened. Dorothy, when I was 70, I thought my life was over. And now? Now I feel like it's just beginning. Every day brings new possibilities to help someone. Dorothy, at 90 years old, remained lucid and involved. Richard, you've discovered the secret to youth. What secret? Having purpose. Those who have a mission in life don't grow old in heart. The conversation was interrupted by shouts of joy coming from the backyard. Grandpa! Grandma! Come see! Yelled Ethan and Matt. They went out to see what was happening. The yellow ipé they had planted in honor of Matthew was blooming for the first time. Look how beautiful, said Sophia, clapping her hands. Yellow flowers for great-grandpa, said Gabriel, trying to reach the branches. Richard was moved seeing the flowering tree. Matthew is blessing our family, he whispered. Grandpa, can we have a party to celebrate the flowers? Suggested Ethan. Of course we can, grandson. Let's celebrate life and the continuity of our family. The Matthews Flower Festival became an annual tradition. Every year when the IPA bloomed, the family would gather all friends and project participants to celebrate. This tree represents renewal, Richard would say in his annual speeches, just as our family renewed itself through forgiveness and love. During one of these parties, Ethan, now 15, made a special announcement. Everyone, I want to share some news. Go ahead, son, encouraged Daniel. I've decided I want to study psychology to work with families. Really? Asked Richard, moved. Yes, Grandpa. I want to continue the work you started, but professionally. Matt, also 15, added, and I want to study social work. I want to work with Ethan helping families." The family was touched by the boy's decision. "Are you sure?" asked Rebecca. "Yes, we are," they answered together. "This is what we want to do with our lives." Sophia, now 12, also had plans. "I want to be a teacher to teach children about family and love." Gabriel, 9 years old, still didn't know exactly what he wanted to be, but one thing was clear. "I want to help people like you do." Richard looked at his grandchildren and felt his heart overflowing with pride. "You are the proof that our project really worked." "How so, Grandpa?" "Because you grew up understanding that the greatest achievement in life is to serve others." That night, after everyone had left, the family gathered on the porch to talk. "Dad, sometimes everything that happens still feels like a dream," said Daniel. "For me too, son. From a family torn apart for 30 years, we've become a national reference for family unity." "And now the boys want to pursue this professionally," added Jennifer. "It's the circle closing perfectly," observed Dorothy. Rebecca was proud of the children she had raised. Matt grew up knowing that family is the most important thing in the world. "And Ethan too," said Daniel. Even though he was an only child for years, he was never selfish. Sophia and Gabriel were playing in the yard, illuminated by the porch light. "Look at those two," said Richard. "Growing up in such a close-knit family, they're going to be very well-adjusted adults." "That's how it should be," said Dorothy. "Children who grow up with lots of love and good examples become adults who spread love." 2 more years passed. Ethan and Matt graduated from high school and applied for psychology and social work, respectively. Both got into the same university. "Grandpa, we did it!" they shouted, running to hug Richard. "I always knew you would," he said, emotional. "Now we're going to study to help families professionally," said Ethan. "And we'll keep working on the project on weekends," added Matt. The college acceptance party was emotional. The whole extended family gathered to celebrate. "Ethan and Matt, you are the future of the Seeds of Peace project," said one of the longest-serving volunteers. "It's not just us," replied Ethan. "Sophia and Gabriel will help too when they grow up." "And other kids who grew up in the project might also follow this path," added Matt. Richard watched the party and thought about how life had come full circle. "Matthew, my little grandson, look what your family has become," he whispered, looking at the flowering ipe tree. A gentle breeze swayed the yellow flowers, as if Matthew was answering that he always knew everything would work out. Sophia, now 14, approached her grandfather. "Grandpa, what are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about how blessed we are, my granddaughter. Because of our big family. Because of the love we built together. Each one of you is a gift in my life." Gabriel, 11, had a question. "Grandpa, when I grow up, will our family get even bigger?" "Probably yes, Gabriel. You'll get married, have children, and the Mitchell family will keep growing. That's so cool, I'll have nephews to play with." Richard smiled at Gabriel's innocence. "And you'll be a wonderful uncle, just like Uncle Matthew would have been." At that moment, Ethan approached with some news. "Grandpa, I have a surprise." "What surprise, grandson?" "I did some research and found out we've already helped over 500 families across the United States." 500 families? asked Richard, impressed. "Yes, counting the families who participated directly in the project and those helped by volunteers in other cities." "My God, 500 families reunited." Daniel did a quick calculation. "Dad, if each family averages 4 people, that means over 2,000 people have benefited from the project." Rebecca was moved by the number. 2,000 people who learned to love and forgive. "And who will teach that to their children and grandchildren," added Dorothy. Richard needed to sit down, absorbing the scale of what they had built. Everyone, when Ethan recognized Matthew's photo in that cemetery, he was planting a seed that would bear fruit for thousands of people. "That's how love works," said Sophia, with her teenage wisdom. "It multiplies infinitely." Gabriel nodded in agreement. "Just like our vegetable garden. You plant one seed and lots of fruits grow." That night, Richard wrote in his personal diary, "Today, I discovered that our small wounded family has transformed into a giant tree of love that is bearing fruit across the country. Matthew, my dear little grandson, your early departure was not in vain. Through the pain of your absence, we learned the value of presence. Through the forced separation of the family, we learned the importance of unity. You continue to watch over us from heaven, and now you're watching over hundreds of other families too. Thank you for teaching us that love is stronger than any pain. The next morning, the family woke with a special feeling of gratitude and renewed purpose. Everyone, what do you think about organizing a national gathering of all the families who participated in the project? Suggested Daniel during breakfast. That would be amazing, said Ethan excitedly. Can we do it here at the ranch? Asked Matt. The ranch isn't big enough for 500 families, observed Jennifer. We could use the city event center, suggested Rebecca. Richard liked the idea. It would be an opportunity to show everyone that family reconciliation really works. And the children could meet each other, said Sophia. It would be the biggest family reunion in the world, exclaimed Gabriel. The organization of the gathering took 6 months. Families from across the United States confirmed their attendance. The event was scheduled to coincide with the 10th anniversary of the first meeting between Ethan and Matt. Ethan, do you remember how you felt when you met Matt? Asked a journalist covering the event preparations. Yes, I remember. It was like finding a brother I always knew existed but didn't know where he was. And you, Matt? For me, it was even more special because I didn't have a big family. Suddenly I discovered I had cousins, uncles, a great-grandfather. Sophia, now an articulate teenager, was also interviewed. Sophia, what's it like growing up in a family that has become a national reference? It's normal for me, because it's always been this way, but it's cool to know our story helps other people. Gabriel, 12 years old, had his own perspective. Everyone should have a big, united family like ours. On the day of the national gathering, the City Events Center was packed. Families from 20 different states gathered to celebrate family love. Richard, now 82 years old, gave the opening speech. My dear friends, 10 years ago my grandson Ethan pointed to a photo in a cemetery and said a phrase that changed our lives. That boy played with me yesterday. Today, I look at this crowd of gathered families and understand that phrase didn't just change our life, but touched the hearts of thousands of people across the United States. The audience applauded emotionally. Every family present here is proof that love is stronger than any resentment, that forgiveness is possible, and that it's never too late to start over. During the event, several families shared their reconciliation stories. Many were as moving as the Mitchells. Our family had been separated for 15 years because of an inheritance, shared one elderly woman. After learning about your project, we decided family is worth more than money. My son hadn't spoken to me for 5 years, said an elderly man. The project taught us that pride doesn't feed the heart. Ethan and Matt, now college students, organized activities for the children present. It's incredible to see so many happy children from families that were previously fighting, observed Ethan, and to know these children will grow up seeing family love as normal, added Matt. Sophia coordinated an exhibition of drawings made by children from across the country on the theme My United Family. Every drawing tells a story of love, she told the exhibition visitors. Gabriel helped organize games and activities, always with a smile on his face. Gabriel, how does it feel to be part of such a special family? Asked a visiting child. It's normal for me, but now I understand that not all families are as united as ours. At the end of the event, there was a special ceremony. They planted a yellow trumpet tree in the event center's garden in honor of Matthew and all the people who passed away leaving wounded families. This tree is a symbol of hope, said Richard during the ceremony. Even when we lose someone dear, life goes on, love grows, and new generations flourish. Ethan read a collective letter written by all the families present. We, the families gathered today, promise to keep the flame of family love alive. We promise to teach our children that family is sacred, that forgiveness is liberating, and that it's never too late to start over. We promise to be multipliers of peace in our communities and guardians of family unity for the generations to come. The event ended with all families holding hands around the newly planted tree in a human chain symbolizing the union of hundreds of families. "This image will stay with me forever," said Dorothy, now 92 years old, but still present and emotional. Richard looked at that crowd of united people and whispered a prayer of gratitude. "Matthew, my grandson, look what your family has become. A great chain of love that has spread across the whole country." That night, back at the ranch, the family gathered to talk about the day. "It was the most moving day of my life," said Ethan. "For me, too," agreed Matt. "Seeing so many happy families together, and knowing our story inspired all this," added Sophia. Gabriel was tired, but happy. "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to do gatherings like this every week." Daniel laughed at his son's ambition. "Son, once a year is already great." Richard was thoughtful. "You know what impressed me most today?" "What, Dad?" "How quickly the children adapted. They don't carry the weight of old grudges." "It's because children live in the present," observed Jennifer. "They don't get stuck in the past. That's why they're the ones who heal adults' wounds," said Rebecca. Dorothy, even tired, wanted to speak. "Richard, today we closed a very important cycle." "How so, Dorothy?" "We showed the whole United States that family is the most precious thing we have, and that it's always worth fighting for." "You're right. And the next generations will reap the fruits of what we planted." They looked at the garden, where Matthew's trumpet tree swayed gently under the full moon. "He's proud of us," said Ethan. "I'm sure he is," agreed Richard. 6 months after the national gathering, Ethan and Matt were in their second year of college and already interning with families in the process of reconciliation. "Grandpa, it's amazing how what we learned at home helps us in college," said Ethan. "You have practical experience that few students have," observed Richard. "And the best part is we can help families not just with theory, but with real-life experience," added Matt. Sophia, now in high school, had already decided she wanted to study pedagogy with a specialization in child psychology. "I want to work with children from families in conflict," she said. "It's a much-needed field," and supported Rebecca. Gabriel, 13 years old, was beginning to better understand the impact of the family project. "Grandpa, is our family famous?" "We're not famous, Gabriel. We're useful, which is much better." "How so?" "Famous people are known. Useful people are remembered, and they make a difference in others' lives." Richard was beginning to think about a successor to coordinate the project. "Rebecca, do you feel prepared to take over the overall coordination of the project?" "Mr. Richard, that would be a great responsibility. You already coordinate most of the activities. And she has the necessary experience and sensitivity. But what if I can't maintain the same standard?" "The standard isn't mine, Rebecca. The standard comes from the love that drives the project, and you have that in abundance." The transition was gradual. Richard continued participating in everything, but Rebecca officially took over as the general coordinator of the Seeds of Family Peace project. "How does it feel to be the new coordinator?" a journalist asked during an interview. "It's an honor to continue the work started by Mr. Richard, and I know I have the support of the whole family." "What are the plans for the future?" "We want to expand the project to other countries. We've already received invitations from Costa Rica and the Dominican Republic." The idea of internationalizing the project excited the whole family. "Imagine families from other countries reconciling through our experience," said Daniel. "That would be wonderful," Jennifer agreed. Ethan and Matt offered to help with the international expansion after they graduated. "We can do exchanges to learn about family cultures in other countries," suggested Ethan. "And adapt our methodology to each reality," added Matt. The first international project was implemented in Miami, Costa Rica. Rebecca traveled there, accompanied by Ethan and Matt, to train the local team. "How was the international experience?" asked Richard when they returned. "Thrilling," replied Rebecca. "Costa Rican families have conflicts similar to those in the United States, and they responded very well to our methodology," added Ethan. "We adapted some activities for their culture, but the essence remained the same," said Matt. The success in Costa Rica opened doors to other countries. Soon they were implementing projects in Panama, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. Dad, our small American family is spreading love throughout Central America and the Caribbean, observed Daniel. That's how good things spread, said Richard, through people who believe and dedicate themselves. Sophia, now in her senior year of high school, was already making plans to join her siblings in the international work. I want to be the child psychology specialist on the international team, she announced. You still have a lot of studying to do for that, joked Gabriel. I know, but I already know exactly what I want to do with my life. Gabriel, at 14, was also starting to define his interests. I think I want to study administration to handle the organizational side of the projects. Each of you is finding your own way to contribute, observed Richard proudly. 2 years later, when Richard turned 85, the family organized a special party at the estate. Grandpa, this party is to celebrate not just your birthday, but everything you've built, said Ethan. I didn't build it alone, replied Richard. Each one of you was essential. But you were the one who had the courage to change, said Rebecca, and that inspired all of us. During the party, they reviewed the project's results. In 15 years, we've directly helped 800 families, said Matt, reading the numbers. And indirectly, through volunteers and international projects, we've reached over 3,000 families, added Ethan. That means more than 12,000 people have learned about love and family forgiveness, calculated Sophia. Richard was moved by the numbers. 12,000 people, that's an entire small town. It's a town of people who know how to love their families, corrected Gabriel. Dorothy, now 95, still participated in activities, even with physical limitations. Richard, you fulfilled a lifelong dream. What dream, Dorothy? The dream of leaving the world a little better than you found it. We all fulfilled that dream together. That night, Richard wrote in his diary, Today I completed 85 years of life. The first 70 were marked by many joys, but also by immense pain. The last 15 years were the happiest and most productive of my life. I learned that it's never too late to start over, that family is the most precious thing we have, and that love has an unimaginable transformative power. Matthew, my dear grandson, your early departure became the birth of something much greater. Through our family reconciliation, thousands of other families found their way back to love. Thank you for watching over us from heaven and for teaching us that death isn't the end, it's transformation. Ethan and Matt graduated from college with honors. Their senior theses were about the Seeds of Family Peace project. Grandpa, we dedicated our graduation projects to you, said Ethan during the commencement ceremony. And to great-grandfather Matthew, who started this whole story, added Matt. Richard cried during the graduation ceremony, proud of the grandchildren he had helped raise. Jennifer, look what our boys have become, he whispered to his daughter-in-law. They're a reflection of the love they received from this family, she replied. Sophia also passed the entrance exam for education at the same university as her brothers. Now we'll be able to work together officially, she said excitedly. Gabriel, in high school, remained firm in his decision to study business administration. I want to make sure the projects always have resources to help more families, he explained. 1 year after Ethan and Matt's graduation, Richard began to feel the signs of old age. At 86, his energy wasn't the same anymore. Dad, you should slow down your activities, suggested Daniel. Son, as long as I can contribute, I'll keep working. But you've already done more than anyone could dream of. Daniel, when you find your purpose in life, you don't want to stop. Dorothy, even older than Richard, continued as his faithful companion in the project's activities. Richard, we're both too stubborn to stop, she joked. Stubborn and necessary, he replied. During one of the family visits to the estate, something happened that deeply moved Richard. A 6-year-old child, who looked a lot like Ethan when he was little, approached him. Grandpa Richard, did you know the boy in the photo at the cemetery? Yes, I did, my little one. He was my grandson Matthew. My mom said that because of him, your family became united again. That's right. Then he must be a very special little angel. Richard knelt to be at the child's eye level. Yes, he is, my child. A little angel who watches over all families. Can I talk to him? Yes, you can. He's always listening." The child closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you, little angel Matthew, for helping families love each other." Richard had to walk away to cry. Even after so many years, the memory of Matthew still moved him deeply. "Grandpa, are you okay?" asked Sophia, who had witnessed the scene. "Yes, my granddaughter. It's just that sometimes I still get emotional remembering everything that happened." "That's normal, Grandpa. It means your heart remains full of love." That night, Richard had a very vivid dream. He dreamed he was at the cemetery where it all began, but this time Matthew was there not as a photo but as a child of light. "Grandpa Richard, I'm very proud of you," said Matthew in the dream. "My dear grandson, I've missed you so much all these years. I never left your side. I was taking care of everything so our family could reunite." "Was it you who made Ethan recognize me in the photo?" "It was me who brought Matt to Ethan's school. And it was me who whispered in his ear to look closely at my photo. Matthew, your family has become very large. Our family, Grandpa. And it will keep growing and spreading love forever." Richard woke up with a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. He felt that Matthew was truly well and watching over everyone. "Jen, I had a very special dream last night," he told Jennifer during breakfast. "What dream, father-in-law?" "I dreamed about Matthew. He was radiant and said he's proud of our family. I'm sure he really is, and that he continues to watch over us. In the dream, he said it was him who orchestrated our reunion." "I always suspected that," said Daniel, who was listening to the conversation. "Too many coincidences to be just chance." 3 months after that dream, Richard woke up one morning feeling particularly well. "Dorothy, what a beautiful day to work in the garden," he said. "It really is, Richard. Matthew's IPA tree is starting to bud again." They spent the morning tending to the plants, talking about future projects and remembering old stories. "Richard, they were 15 very well-lived years," said Dorothy. "The best of my life, without a doubt. And do you know why?" "Why?" "Because they were years lived with purpose and love." That afternoon, Richard went to rest in the hammock on the porch, as he did every day after lunch. He fell asleep peacefully, with the sound of children playing in the backyard. When he woke up, it was already late afternoon. He felt an inexplicable peace in his heart. "Daniel," he called. "Yes, Dad." "I want you to know that I've been very happy. This family is my greatest pride." "Dad, you're talking as if you're saying goodbye." "It's not goodbye, son. It's gratitude." That evening, Richard gathered the whole family in the living room. "Everyone, I want to tell you something important." Everyone paid attention. "I want you to know that each one of you is special to me. Ethan and Matt, you were the instruments God used to bring our family together. Sophia and Gabriel, you are the continuation of our love story. Rebecca, you are the daughter I never had and the mother your children deserve to have. Daniel and Jennifer, you are the perfect parents and the children I always dreamed of. And Dorothy, you are the sister life gave me." "Grandpa, why are you talking like this?" asked Ethan worriedly. "Because I want to make sure you know how much you're loved." "We know, Grandpa," said Matt, "and you also know how much we love you." "Yes, I do, my little grandson. And that's what gives me peace." That night, Richard wrote his final page in the diary. "My dear family members, if you're reading this, it means I've gone to reunite with Matthew. Don't be sad. I lived 87 blessed years, with the last 15 being the happiest of all. Our family is solid, our project is established, and you have everything you need to continue spreading love throughout the world. Matthew and I will be watching over you from heaven. Stay united always. Your love is my greatest treasure. With all my love, Richard." The next morning, Dorothy found Richard sitting in the porch chair, with a serene smile on his face, looking at Matthew's IPA tree that was beginning to bloom. He had passed away peacefully, like someone who fulfilled their mission on earth. Richard's funeral was the largest in the city's history. Families from all over the United States came to say goodbye to the man who had dedicated the last 15 years of his life to reuniting families. "Grandpa Richard didn't die," said Gabriel during the wake. "He just went to take care of more families up in heaven." "You're right," agreed Sophia through tears. "He and great-grandpa Matthew are together again." Ethan and Matt carried the casket along with Daniel and other family members. During the procession, hundreds of people walked in silence, paying their last respects. At the cemetery, the priest held an emotional ceremony. Richard Mitchell was a man who transformed pain into love, resentment into forgiveness, and separation into union. His legacy isn't just in the projects he created, but in the thousands of families who learned to love through his example. Rebecca gave a speech on behalf of the family. Mr. Richard taught us that family is the most precious thing we have, that it's never too late to start over, and that love has the power to heal any wound. We promise to continue his work and keep his memory alive through the love we built together. Richard's grave was placed next to Matthew's, as he had requested. Now Grandpa Richard can look after Great-Grandpa Matthew personally, said Ethan. And the two can watch over us together, added Matt. After the burial, the family gathered at the estate to discuss the future. Everyone, we need to decide how we're going to move forward, said Daniel. Let's continue exactly as Grandpa would have wanted, said Rebecca, united and helping other families. Matt and I have already graduated and are ready to take on more responsibilities, said Ethan. And I finish college next year, added Sophia. And I still have 2 years left, but I want to help however I can, said Gabriel. Dorothy, though shaken by the loss of her friend, wanted to speak. Richard left everything organized. The project has the structure to continue without him. And we have each other, said Jennifer, which is what matters most. 1 month after Richard's passing, the family organized the first official project meeting without him. Let's start with a prayer for Grandpa Richard and Great-Grandpa Matthew, suggested Ethan. They said a collective prayer asking for protection and guidance to continue the work. I have a proposal, said Rebecca. What is it? How about we create the Richard and Matthew Mitchell Institute for Family Peace? That's a beautiful idea, said Daniel, moved. It would formalize all the work and be a permanent tribute to both of them, added Matt. The proposal was unanimously approved. 6 months later, the institute was officially established and registered. Grandpa would be proud, said Sophia during the inauguration ceremony. And Great-Grandpa Matthew, too, Gabriel finished. The institute grew quickly. Soon it was operating in 8 countries and had directly helped over 5,000 families. Ethan became the technical director, Matt the international projects coordinator, Sophia the child psychology specialist, and Gabriel, after graduating, took over administration. We're the second generation of the project, said Ethan during an interview, and we have the responsibility to honor our grandfather's legacy, added Matt. 5 years after Richard's passing, the family organized a special tribute at the cemetery. Grandpa Richard, we came to share the news, said Gabriel, now a business graduate. The institute has helped 10,000 families, said Sophia. And it's present in 12 countries, added Ethan. But the most important thing is that our family remains united and happy, concluded Matt. They placed fresh flowers on Richard and Matthew's graves and planted another yellow ipay tree in the cemetery. This tree is so other families who come here can feel hope, explained Rebecca. Just like we did when it all began, said Daniel. As they were leaving the cemetery, Gabriel stopped and looked back. Everyone, did you see that? What? They all asked. For a moment I thought I saw 2 children playing under the new ipay tree. They must be children from some family visiting another grave, said Jennifer. Maybe, said Gabriel. Or maybe it's Grandpa Richard and Great-Grandpa Matthew as children again, playing together in heaven. Everyone smiled at the possibility. If that's the case, they must be very happy, said Ethan. And very proud of the family they left behind, Matt completed. They walked back home in silence, each lost in their own thoughts, but all united by the love Richard had taught and Matthew had inspired. On the estate's porch, the ipay tree planted for Matthew was in full bloom, its yellow flowers dancing in the afternoon breeze, as if celebrating another day of a family united by love and strengthened by the experience that it's never too late to start over. 10 years had passed since Richard's departure. The family had grown even larger. Ethan married and had twin sons, naming them Richard and Matthew in honor of his grandfather and great-uncle. Matt also started a family and had a daughter, Helen, named after the grandmother she never met. Sophia married and was expecting her first child. Gabriel was engaged to a psychologist he met during one of the Institute's projects. "Just look at our family," said Dorothy, now 100 years old but still present at every gathering. "From 4 hurt people, we've become a family of 20 happy individuals. And thousands of other families touched by our story," added Rebecca. The children of the new generation played in the farm's backyard, under the shade of Matthew's épée tree, which had become a majestic tree. "Daddy, tell us the story of Great-Uncle Matthew again," asked one of the little Richards. Ethan smiled and began the story he never tired of repeating. "Once upon a time, there was a very special boy named Matthew who taught our family that love is stronger than any pain." And so the story continued to be told, generation after generation, keeping alive the memory of the boy who left too soon, but left an eternal legacy of love and family unity. At the end of that afternoon, as the sun set behind the mountains and the épée flowers shone golden against the sky, it was possible to feel the loving presence of Richard and Matthew watching over each member of that family, which had learned that true love never ends. It only transforms and multiplies infinitely. End of story. Now, dear listeners, tell us what you thought of this touching story of family reconciliation. Do you believe Richard made the right decision by opening his heart to forgive? Do you know any family that has gone through a similar situation? Share your experiences with us in the comments. Your participation is very important to our community. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories we've prepared especially for you.